You are listening to the Fresh Take Network.
What it is we're doing, Fresh Take, Joshua Adelaide. We are here and very gracefully and thankful for the founders of Sea of the Dead with Jonathan Anderson and Garrett Crump. Gentlemen, thanks so much for taking your time and coming to talk to us today here on Fresh Take.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us. It's exciting.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, oh no, absolutely. So you guys have really kind of exploded in the Calgary scene lately. What was, first of all, I guess I'll go to you, Garrett. What was the antithesis to start this off at, and kind of explain the growth from there?
Yeah, I guess kind of the way it sort of kicked around was John and I, just kind of coincidentally were operating out of the same area at Mount Royal University. Kind of got to chatting about some of the old sports teams and logos and gear that we wish we could kind of find and then weren't able to find, and started by us, just kicking rocks on Cannon's logoed hats over some beers, and then started bringing those in and sold those to our family members and anyone who would pay us some cash to take them off our hands, and then kind of grew from there.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing I kind of saw, because I remember for a while, I was at Shanks and they had the Cannon banner there. And I remember staring at it one day and kind of before you guys were around, and being like, there is literally nothing around for Canon stuff. It's kind of a bummer that, we didn't get, and I was like, oh man, and I'm sure you've had so many people go and be like, as a kid, I wish I would have gotten something there. And there really wasn't even any real throwback stuff of Canon stuff even available either.
Yeah, that was kind of like how we started it, in the sense that like we kind of were like, hey man, like I'd really like to get a cool Cannons hat, or like how come I can't find, like I'm a really big Chicago Cubs fan, right? So like my wardrobe is all Chicago Cubs stuff. And I was like, well, like how come I can't get like just a Calgary Cannons t-shirt or anything to commemorate, their existence in the city, right? And that's kind of where Garrett and I went down the long rabbit hole of like, okay, well, like if we can't find it, how do we produce this stuff ourselves?
So what led to the producing and like the licensing and all that for the Cannons? Let's go with first.
Yeah, so for Cannons, it kind of just started out. I went down sort of public availability of trademarks and looking through expunged trademarks and branding and stuff we weren't going to get immediately sued for using. Which was interesting. Learned a lot there. And then, a little later on, we kind of got into some actual more licensing agreements once we became a little bigger, but good start there. And then, I was trying to figure out how to get the logo from a picture on the computer onto a hat. As John's mentioned, we've got a third man to our band here, Ryan, who does all of our graphic design and our design work. And John and I have no idea what's going on when it comes to design stuff. Like, they were asking for these vector images and like, we had no idea. It was like, can I send you a JPEG and then you could just strap that on? Apparently that doesn't fly. So it was a bit of a process to figure out how to actually get it from conceptualization to a design that can be used by a designer to put it onto the piece of clothing, and then trying to figure out how to and where to order the clothing from to then get it in our hands to then sell. So yeah, a little bit more than the initial conversation over a couple of beers of saying like, let's make some hats. That'll be really cool.
Yeah, like that's a hurdle that like probably can't be underestimated, is like the fact that like we had the idea at first, right? And then Garrett did all the due diligence to figure out, okay, how do we properly do this within the boundaries of what we're allowed to do. But then once we even found a manufacturer, and we were so lost when it was presented to us that we'd need digital files and vector files of like high quality artwork. So that's really where we brought Ryan in, and like his value cannot be overstated enough, because we would be completely lost without him. And he creates every image you see on our t-shirts, hats, zip ups, sweatshirts, whatever, from scratch essentially, right? So he's such an important member to us, and we were so lost until we brought him in, really. So
So I'm interested again, kind of with the legal process with the Cannons. Was there a sense, because obviously they moved to Albuquerque, did the Albuquerque franchise have a hold on the licensing there, or where was all the licensing for the Cannons, for example?
No, so it went down this weird path. Albuquerque did have it, and then it was owned by some numbered company out of Florida for a while, and then it was actually expunged, if I recall correctly, in 2003, which means that they weren't paying to keep the rights to the trademark and the usage up to date, because there's an annual fee, and there's a lot of there's fees on everything, so you have to keep up with them. And that was kind of where it was started. So then we put our application in to purchase the expunged trademark, which then goes through pretty much an 18 to 36 month process of, they have to put it into a trademark application journal, which then can be, an old owner can then dispute based on their rights to the trademark. So it kind of goes down this whole legal road. Luckily, we haven't had any issues yet. So with sort of the trademarks we've gone through, so we'll continue collecting and investing in those as we kind of see fit here.
Yeah, I think the one that's most interesting for me is Stampede Wrestling, because that's had, especially with WWE, a topsy-turvy road. Like Stampede Wrestling was on the WWE network, I think, for 10 minutes before it was all pulled off again. And hearing about who has the rights to it has gone back and forth. So I'm really interested how you guys were able to make the shirt. Was it simply of getting Brett's blessing for it, or what was the path for getting the Stampede Wrestling shirts?
Well, I can help with that one a little bit.
Sure.
So that one, in essence, isn't a trademark for us. That's just an original artwork.
Okay.
That's just something that Ryan drew, right?
Okay.
So he based that design 100% on an old program that he had acquired, actually. So, like, there's a lot of different legalities with that, but the fact of the matter is, it's his original artwork. If there was sort of a challenge to that trademark or that imagery, he could also make the argument that it's 33% different than anything that's ever been created. And we got that piece of legal advice from Bret Hart, actually, who when we talked to him, he was the first person we ever showed our mock-ups and designs for them.
Oh, wow.
And so it was really cool. And I said to him, like, Bret, like, does this look right? Like, does this look like the actual logo? Because obviously I wasn't there. And he was like, yeah, that's kind of the way I remember it. So it was a really cool conversation for, like, a native Calgarian too, right? To kind of have his blessing on it. So we haven't gone any further on it with that, and we're just kind of waiting on that one.
Well, it was pretty cool, to you saw Bret have them. You've seen guys in Impact Wrestling wear them.
Mm-hmm.
You had TJ Wilson on the Sea of the Dead pod talking about it. So obviously people surrounding the Calgary area and in the wrestling community obviously gravitated to that shirt pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, we also joke around, right? Like, post-COVID, and when we can all get together, maybe we could do this interview in person all in the same room sometime. Yeah. But with that, hopefully we can go to large gatherings. And we've kind of like kicked around, like, okay, like the Sea of Dead brand is really expanding now. What do we do next? So it's kind of on our bucket list that, maybe we'll produce one-off spot shows of stuff under that name and brand.
You need a broadcaster.
Well, we'll keep you in mind. It's definitely, like everything we do, we should really make sure we mention this too. Everything we do is in celebration, right? Like, so if anyone ever took exception to something we did and said, actually, that's still mine, or you're not allowed to do this for XYZ, obviously we would honor that and respect that. We're not, trying to we always use the analogy, we're not just a bunch of guys outside of Fenway selling Yankee Sucks t-shirts, right? So, yeah.
Well, I think the one thing that's really cool about it is, even if you don't own a shirt or whatnot, I think it's a sense of being on the Instagram or whatever and going to the webpage and getting the sense of nostalgia for stuff. And I know doing this interview today, I went back and I talked to my grandmother and I talked to my aunts and uncles and kind of got a chance to go down this rabbit hole of Calgary history to have conversations with you guys about, future brands and stuff like that. And that was the really kind of funny stuff I did. Like I found a tidbit today that I didn't know that the Calgary Tower used to be the Husky Tower. Never knew that. So I found that out today. That's just got to be half the fun for you guys. You said it's kind of started over beers, talking about the cannons, but that's got to have been half the fun so far, is kind of getting these deep dives in Calgary history as you move on.
Yeah. Well, I'll go first and then Garrett can jump in, but like it's probably worth mentioning also, again, Ryan, who's not here, unfortunately, he's 10 years older than us. So he has a different recollection on all these kind of things for us. So if there's certain things Garrett and I think are going to be really popular or will make a lot of sense, and then Ryan will come completely out of left field with something and be like, actually, you should really think about focusing on this. But the one that comes to mind for me right away is when we started researching like the authenticity of the corral imagery. And then when you found out like what the corral was when it was built, like it was the crown jewel of Western Canada for a long time. And then if you like were in the corral in the later years, it's like, I can't believe the NHL let games happen here.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe Lanny McDonald played here. Like that for me was the really cool one, like learning all the history behind the corral.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of funny that you say that. Before I get to Garrett, I remember the same when I went there. I'm like, oh, this is where Stampede Wrestling was and where the Flames played. And now there's like, sometimes you go there, they have the farming section during the Stampede. It's like, wow. Garrett?
Yeah, I mean, it's John's right. I think a lot of the rabbit holes that we kind of go down are directed pretty well by Ryan. He's got such a great like memory and history for the nostalgia of Calgary. But when we're, it's, as you said, like when we're hanging out and we're just kind of going down a bit through memory lane of stuff that doesn't really exist, but we're so seemingly instrumental in what we, like perfect example is Lloyd's, like who didn't have a birthday party, between the ages of 8 and 12 there. And if you didn't have a birthday party there, like, did you just not have any friends? Because everyone was hanging out at Lloyd's.
Yeah.
And it was a place to be.
Yeah, I saw that one. And that's another one that brought a lot of memories back for me, was seeing that. I was interested too with, so again, kind of going back to the licensing stuff side of things with like the cannons and stuff. You talk about some of the legalities with stuff. So when it comes to jerseys and whatnot, I don't know if I saw jersey on the site or not. First of all, with the jerseys, was there, I'm sure people have asked you, I want an Alex Rodriguez Cannons jersey. I'm sure that's been asked plenty of times. What's the answer for that? And is there like a fine-tuned thing where you can't kind of go over that limit because of A-Rod on it and whatnot?
I mean, we haven't to put a number and then Rodriguez on the back of a jersey, I think that's, you'd be kind of stretching to say you're not allowed to do that. So like Garrett was mentioning, with the Cannons trademark and licensing we have, it's only for the imagery from 94 onward. Backwards. That's why you don't see us do any of the goofy cartoon logos and stuff like that. So
is that with somebody else, or you guys just weren't interested in that one?
That's right there. That's with somebody else, isn't it?
That is with that's alone. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So long story short, yes, we have looked into jerseys and A-Rod jerseys specifically. It's a very common question. Long story short, they're just too expensive to make. We just don't want to, roll them out. You only have one shot at that, right? So we want them to be right. We want them to be something we can stand by. We're just not ready yet. It's in the works, right, Garrett? Same with the 88's jersey. Like we really want to do a Chip England jersey, and we've got some really nice mock-ups and got some early discussions on what kind of material we use and et cetera. But we just want to make sure they're going to be right before we do them.
For sure.
Yeah, and quality, especially when it's a jersey and you're going to be asking people to fork out a pretty decent amount of cash, like it'd be easy just to rip out, we're going to make this Cannons jersey on material that we're not really going to research. It's going to come straight from China and it'll be good enough. And then you get it. And although we hate to admit it, we kind of made that mishap once on one of our first item of clothing, like the original Rads 3/4 Hey John,
Yeah,
where it was just like, yeah, not quality controlled enough.
exactly. We get killed on it on social media all the time. Like we were trying to push, like I think we did 50 of those off the hop, right, Garrett? And like we had the final like 2 or 3 to sell for like what felt like 6 months. So every time we put it out on social media, we'd have somebody chime in and be like, "This is the worst shirt I've ever bought. It feels like cardboard," you know. So we just don't want to do that because we were early in the game at that time, right? And the Rad's shirt was so expensive to produce because there's so many colors in it, and it was a 3/4 length. So we don't want to make that mistake again.
That's another one. Seeing that brought a lot of memories back. Seeing the Rads one, that was a very cool license you guys got.
Actually, can I ask you? I'd like to ask you that then, because we really struggle with that one. Either
really
they really know the Rads, or people are like, "What is it?"
And I guess from. Oh, sorry, I was gonna say I'm 35, so maybe it's in that right realm for me.
Yeah, we haven't even found the happy medium yet with them, where we're like, that's just a really cool logo. So like we think people would like it. Hey Garrett, but we've really struggled with that one.
Yeah, and it kind of comes in this weird wave of, we'll hold on to the Rads gear for like what seems like forever. I don't actually know how long it is. But then we sell out of it. And then it seems like we get 25 or 30 messages of people asking like, "Oh, when are you going to restock on Rad stuff?" So then we do a run of Rad stuff, and then it feels like we're holding on to it forever. So we just don't understand that market fully yet, but we're going to keep pushing it anyway.
I guess that's kind of why, like, because you see sometimes your social media when you had like the Corral shirt, it's like last shipment of it. And I mean, obviously you're a smaller company, so you can't just mass produce all these shirts, right?
Yeah. So, and that's another idea that came from Ryan, right? Like he's a big Homage guy. It was a really cool clothing brand that we like, and we base a lot of stuff that we do on them. And it was Ryan who came to us and said, "Okay, like we've got enough of a following now, and certain stuff is popular enough that we can say, okay, this is it. It's a limited edition, whether you either got one or you didn't." So Homage calls theirs the Vault. We're doing it. It's called the Dead Chest. It's essentially the same thing where if you didn't get Race City, who else is in there, Garrett? Race City, Corral's in there.
Corral's going to be in there.
Lloyd's is going to be in there because we've done enough runs of them now where we got to say, okay, like this is it. We got to move on to hopefully Bonsai Water Slides or Happy Valley.
I'm guessing. So the Cecil Hotel one was really a really cool one initially, but I'm guessing with this Netflix doc originally just coming out in the last month or so, that kind of led to a boom for that shirt, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's been okay. Like the Cecil Hey Garrett is probably like our tried and true after this hat. I would say it's probably our best repeat seller. I don't know if we've seen an immediate uptake from the documentary yet. I hope we will, but we'll see.
That one just always seems to sell so well because like it just seems like 6 degrees of separation. You always either you've got stories of the Cecil or someone has stories of the Cecil. So it's just like people get stopped. I've had just some random friends who have ended up buying it not knowing I was part of Sea of Dead say that they came out of a Canadian Tire once. A cop stopped them, asked them to come over, and the guy thought he was in total crap. And then the cop just asked him where he got the Cecil Hotel shirt from.
Wow.
And so it's like, yes, that one's always been, I think every Calgarian has either heard of stories, the craziness that was the Cecil Hotel, or, experienced it, unfortunately, for themselves.
Definitely. So I had a few before I'm going to kind of get to the future and maybe some favorite memories and stuff. I had a few brands and stuff that I was interested in. Now, some of these I've asked other, we got some of our listeners to give suggestions. Some I had, some of the ones I had, and these ones I'm like 99% sure you can happen. And let me know how much you get these suggested. So number one for me was a Calgary 2 and 7 shirt.
Yeah, we can't do that. I mean, that
'Cause
that still falls under global, right?
Yeah, and I thought that's what I thought, because there's so many cool ones. There's the one with there's just the 2 and 7. There's the one with the
pandas.
panda. There's the panda with the cowboy hat. It's
Mhm.
such a cool, and I think that's on global for not releasing that, because that's such a cool one to have.
Yeah, I mean, if global's listening, hey, we'd love to produce it for you. You know, like Cami is a big supporter of ours, and we're so grateful for that. And I mean, she works at Global. Maybe she can pull some strings for us.
Fellow sacred with mine.
Right.
Ernest Manning was one I got asked a lot about. Now, no longer a school, and there's a lot of alumni there, including the Hearts who went to Ernest Manning. Have you guys been asked about that before, like high schools and stuff like that?
I think like, well, we get asked about schools. I mean, I think like, I'm not up to date on my history, but was Ernest Manning not originally one of the big four?
It was, yeah.
So therefore, that might fall under the Stampede. So that would be my hesitation for that. We we do these roundtables all.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of shooting. I'm like,
So
because I was like, I'm going to ask these.
Yeah, welcome to the See a Dead debate zone, because we do this quite often.
Right.
Electric Avenue was one I got brought up a lot as well.
Yeah, I mean, we want to do that, eh, Garrett? Like,
Oh yeah.
Like,
again, that one rolls in. You know,
but there's not really a logo there, right?
Not really a logo, so you got to design it from scratch. And you know, we're kind of doing that. Everyone's kind of doing this side of the desk. We've all got other gigs, and you know, we throw a lot at Ryan as is. But yeah, that one would have to be from scratch. And then you've also got to think timing too. It's like, you know, do you want Electric Ave out with, Cecil Hotel out with, or do you kind of want one and then retire the other one? So yeah, a lot of timing, you know, timing of the stuff comes into play there too.
One that I really want, and I think, you know, I think this is really a certain generation for this, and there's been 2 of them, but I'm more talking about the basketball one, is the Calgary Drillers. They were only around for a year, and there's a certain generation of mine, when they saw See a Dead, were like, oh man, I hope they get Driller stuff, because the 88s, there's a lot to have that, but then there's this whole extra section that I at least know that want the Drillers. But then it's funny, because I've talked to another section of people, and they're like, the soccer team. So that was really something I never really knew of, this 2 divide. But any talk about, I mean, either side of the soccer team or the basketball team for the Drillers, or just found there's not enough foundation to really make anything there?
From the social media perspective, I mean, I know you're a Drillers guy.
Yeah.
I think it's limited. Saying that, Ryan does such a good job at producing unique logos, and you'll notice on our second incarnation of our 88 shirt, I mean, we totally mess around with the color scheme, right? I said to Ryan, like, just have fun with it, right? And he did a beautiful job, and it almost looks like it's like Oakland Raiders colors.
Yeah.
So to say that, I like, maybe we could look at the Drillers logo a little closer. That's another thing. Like, it's hard to find imagery for a lot of this stuff.
The Drillers is really hard. Try making them an NBA 2K and the creative team. It's like very blurry, and it's not a great logo. And there's, like you said, there's like the Raider color one, which is what I like, because I'm a Raider fan, and you know, loved going to the Corral for those games with my dad and my sister. But also then there's the weird kind of red one as well. So it's like, which one is the real logo here?
So like, if we could get a high enough res, maybe you can help us out with that, is like some quality imagery, and then we could play around with it, and then mess with the color scheme. Like, again, for example, we just did the Calgary Spurs shirt, which is like a personal favorite of mine. I think it
looks cool. Awesome.
Thank you. It's really cool, but like in our initial discussions, we were like, okay, doing the research. Okay, well, the Calgary Spurs were blue and orange. Well, I'm not doing a blue and orange shirt in Calgary, right? Like, to me, that just feels like. So like, we did a lot of research, and then we were like looking at like Minnesota Golden Gophers color schemes. We kind of settled on Arizona State to align it with, because it kind of feels like Calgary, but it's not the same Flames red or Stampede red or Dinos red, but it's closer to the Calgary side than its original incarnation of the blue and orange, which I
definitely like it. That one's definitely caught up. Just a few more here. Another one that got brought up to me a lot, especially by the older generation, was the Calgary Cowboys. Now, maybe I'm mistaken if I didn't see that or not, but is there some legality there, or I'm sure that one's been pitched around to you guys?
Yeah, that one's full legality. It was
Mhm.
scooped up by Calgary Sports and Entertainment. Actually, not that much longer before we've kind of started trolling the trademark waters.
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, we just kind of missed out, and I don't think anyone wants to get in an argument with CSEC.
No, and it is really too bad because I'm very much on board with that too. Like
Cool
it is an
logo.
awesome logo. Like it's
Awesome.
so clean. The lines are so sharp. Like it would be so awesome. I wish we could do it. I have a Calgary Cowboys t-shirt. I have the
Wow.
Calgary Cowboys New Era hat. When they released it. I wish we could do more with it, but we just can't do that one.
And then two more, and then I'm kind of interested to like maybe once you guys are going around. Ed Whalen. If there had been any questions or talks about an Ed Whalen shirt with how much he means, especially to me or Cammy or anyone else in Calgary for the broadcast community.
Garrett?
Oh, you go ahead. I was just thinking, I was like, it's funny that you bring up Ed Whalen, because that's the first thing that comes to mind when you brought up the 2-7 channel. Is kind of in the same era, right? Just watching Flames games and how great Trevor Kidd was. But
yeah, no, I mean, Ed's a legend, right? I mean, I played at Southland Leisure Center, which was Ed Whalen Arena, right? So I would love to do one for him. We've interacted with his son on Twitter a little bit, actually, and it's never really materialized. And I talked to Brett a little bit about this, and I think Brett told me he has some interest in broadcasting. Maybe I don't know if you know him at all.
There's so many different hearts. I know Blade recently was really big at.
No, Ed's son.
Oh,
Ed's
I'm
son.
sure he does. Yeah, I'm sure he does.
Yeah. So it would be cool. Like that's a guy. Like if we could honor the family in any capacity, that would be awesome. We
get a shirt that says
that.
"Ring a Ding Don Dandy." Would be fantastic.
Yeah, that gets pitched all the time.
Yeah. I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
And then for like some of the colleges out here, so SAIT changed their logo out. And look, I work for SAIT. The new logo is fine, but I love that old logo. And I'm sure the Dinos have an old logo. You have the MRC stuff. Have you guys had like conversations about old Calgary collegiate logos? And I'm sure there's a whole different path there with and whatnot, though.
Well, I work at MRU right now in
Perfect.
marketing and communications. So, I just there's just so much to do. So to your point, it gets discussed a lot. Like, in one time we had a Twitter conversation with Dinos Athletics about doing some vintage stuff for them, but it never went any further. Unfortunately, like Garrett was kind of saying, like, we do this off the side of our desk, right? Like, so we just only have so much time. But that's definitely a road we'd love to go down to. My wife is a very proud alumni of SAIT as well, so I know she would be a fan of that. So yeah.
And then I kind of talked to you guys about this off air, obviously with your relationship with Brett. Martha now took the stuff with the Owen Hart Foundation to Pro Wrestling Tees and have some stuff there. And I think the shirts are fine, but you guys do such a good job of shirts. Before this stuff was taken to Pro Wrestling Tees, did you guys have discussions, or have you had discussions with Brett or anyone about Owen Hart stuff?
No, we've never had formal discussions with anybody about it. I mean, we have amongst ourselves. I mean, Owen and what he meant to not only like his industry, but the city in general. I mean, that guy is a legend on his own in so many respects. And again, it would be such an honor to do something for him or his foundation or anything like that. But out of respect for Martha and any of his family members, we've just never really taken it a step further. But if anybody knows them and wants us to do it, we would gladly do it out of respect.
Yeah, it's kind of the same realm as the Ed Whalen stuff, right? Like, you want to make sure that you're approaching it with respect because of how much they mean to the city and how much they mean to so many people in the city with the fond memories. You want to make sure you're honoring it, not looking like, as John said earlier, some cheap cash grab of, New York Yankees soccer or some crap like that.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to make sure we're going down the right avenues as much as possible to not look cheap.
But it would definitely be cool. Like, I mean,
Absolutely,
like,
yeah.
I mean, you can't emphasize that enough. Like, I think
Yeah.
like his legacy is just something that can't get talked about enough. So if we could pay homage to that in any way, it would be such an honor.
So did I miss anything that you guys get asked at for those questions there for stuff to get produced?
Yeah,
Oh
Garrett,
yeah.
no, Garrett, you get asked all the time about what is it, Garrett? About is it the mechanic shop or something off Barlow, or you get
Yeah,
asked
there's
about all the time?
I can't remember. I don't, unfortunately, I'm on my phone here, but yeah, there's like an old mechanic shop. There was an old used car sales lot, like Big Jim's or something like that. I've got one buddy who keeps annoying me with Shamrock Hotel, and
I
he
remember
thinks like
that.
the Shamrock shirt we just put out, which is John's love child in the company, was his Shamrock Hotel idea. So we just kind of brushed that one under the carpet. So we get hit up with a lot, and then we've also got a lot kind of in our own backlog that we're trying to push out as well. So yeah, those are kind of the big ones, like old mechanic shop, old car dealerships,
Yeah,
and Shamrock Hotel for me.
yeah, and we get like a lot of like all old like junior oil and gas companies and stuff. People ask us that all the time, and
Makes sense being in Calgary.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, like if there's enough demand, we'll do anything you want. But I mean, so we do get, to answer your question, we get some stuff out of left field a lot.
Yeah.
Of the time. That's like what?
So is the future just to stay with kind of the nostalgia side, or do you kind of see to branch out to kind of then start honoring things that are already in Calgary? Let's say like a Lex Ice Creamery, stuff like that, like going forward. Like where's the kind of the future going here? Is it just going to kind of be placed in that nostalgia realm, or is it going to kind of be move forward to also honoring all the other things in Calgary?
Well, that's a really good question, actually, and thanks for asking that, because nobody ever asks us that. I think our bread and butter will always be paying respect to the stuff that's gone but not forgotten. We're getting a lot of inquiries now about companies and organizations saying, "Hey, can you do my shirt?" So, and we're beginning to go down that realm. I'm just a little scared to ask Ryan to say like, "Hey, I need you to do this design on top of the 27 other ones you've got in the queue." So the future is going to have some present day stuff when it gets released. We just don't know. So we just did our first collaboration with Dandy Brewing, and that was really exciting. Garrett had a relationship with them before Sia did. So that really helped us. And I mean, they've been such big supporters for us, and we're just so great that they are so grateful that they allow us to kind of hang in their circle, right? Because I mean, they do such great stuff, and they're a really important part of the community, especially in their world. So we will eventually have more stuff like that, though.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I think the other area, the collaboration stuff's been a lot of fun. But also just, trying to see if we can hit it right with the Sea of Dead brand clothing as well. We're trying to bring out probably one item in order now. Like we've got the pullover sweatshirts with our branded logo, so that I think the three kind of growth areas for us are the nostalgia, the collaborations with the current Calgary community, and then hopefully people wanting to rep our brand as their own kind of one-off pieces as well.
Well, you mentioned the rep. Sorry, John, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're really excited. Like we did about probably legit, no joke, like 6 months of research to produce these crew necks that are coming out, and we're really
Nice.
excited about that. So it's like a 3-stage process, right? Because they got to get manufactured, then they got to get printed, then we have a legit sort of a tag added to it, so we got to get those sewn on too. So that's what the holdup is on those, but we're just so excited to release those. I think people are really going to like them, and it's going to stay dead.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Do you have like and I saw the one sweatshirt you had with the LRT logo on it, which is super cool.
Yeah, so that's what it is. That's what it is. So they're available for pre-sale right now. That we haven't released them, and the pre-sale mock images just never do justice, right? So we're just really excited for the final product to come out, so we can really show people.
So last few questions here. Number one, like how cool has it been? Like, you guys said you kind of do this on the side, but as I've got a chance to talk to other companies here, see how local laundry is growing, and you kind of see the little buzz from the hats, and then they kind of have grown. And I think I'm kind of seeing a similar thing with you guys as well, right? The Canon stuff starts, and then all of a sudden you got guys like Andrew Fun wearing it, and you got guys in Impact Wrestling and whatnot. Talk about the growth you've kind of seen since you guys started.
You want to go with
Yeah.
that, Garrett?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, in my mind, it's kind of tough, really tough to believe over the last 2.5 years from where we started. We were doing these, our first order was like 25 hats, 25, maybe 50 shirts total. And it took us like 6 months to offload. And we were just grinding. Like, I think my friends told me to F off twice a week and just trying to get it out anywhere. And then all of a sudden, John has done an incredible job just kind of growing this online social media community, and Ryan's really helped there as well. And then Ryan's designs that everyone's super into, and then just like you say, where we've got just these well-known local guys able to rep it for us has been awesome. And I certainly would not have expected to be where we are today if you had asked me 12 months ago. The growth has just been unbelievable.
Yeah, like I don't think Garrett and I ever kind of anticipated this would ever be a thing where we need to have like weekly meetings about it. We're doing weekly deliveries. We're meeting with manufacturers. We're testing material. I don't think we properly ever anticipated that. And I mean, the growth, so much of that is we're just like really passionate about the product, right? Like we really don't want to put out anything that we wouldn't wear ourselves. So like, the product's gotta fit. The product's gotta feel nice. Like there's nothing worse than a free t-shirt that like baggy and boxy, right? So that's kind of the analogy we always give. Like we like will not give you the free beer t-shirt kind of thing. You know what I mean? But so much of the growth is as a result of like people like Andrew Fung, people like Grace Defoe, people like TJ Wilson really kind of supporting us and celebrating us, kind of making sure our voice is heard. So we're just so grateful for that. And it's still kind of amazing, hey Garrett, like to see like Bret Hart in our shirt or anything like that. Like it's pretty cool. So
yeah, the real shell shock's also like the local broadcasters like yourself, and then also being, who's giving us a platform to kind of like talk about our stuff and not sound greasy trying to just sell it. But also like why we enjoy doing it so much. But then also, being able to do CTV and getting on Avenue Magazine and those other outlets was like, what do you mean they want to talk about us for a t-shirt company? Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's super cool. Like I say, again, kind of going back to the initial point of giving those nostalgic feelings about stuff, right? I remember when I was kind of going back and forth with you guys on Twitter, I'm like, give a Stampede Wrestling shirt, like go look at the site. I'm like, oh wow, there it is. And the fact that it's in white and pink and black, because there just really hadn't been an outlet for Stampede stuff. I know, we here at Fresh Take have had back and forth they're wanting to do a Stampede documentary, and like but wanting to find all the research and everything before you really do anything, because it's such a bumpy road. And the first thing you kind of find is like the merch stuff was so not really there, especially for Calgarians to live. And I think even doing the corral thing and having the conversations I did with aunt and uncles and cousins and, colleagues that worked at CJ 92 or whatever, though the one thing they just kind of talked about how much that corral getting tore down, like really disheartened them this week. So having that shirt to remember it by is super cool that you guys put that out.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, that was really, I think that was Ryan's brainchild, wasn't that, Garrett? He was the one. I know he stressed over the logo for weeks on end because he could never get a straight on high res image of the logo. It's all the imagery is like at an angle. Yeah. So he really obsessed over it, and he did a great job. And we've done probably 4 releases of those already, hey Garrett, and this is going to be the last one, and we only have a couple left as of right now. So yeah.
What's the dream project? Is it the Flames? I'm guessing something with them.
I don't know, man. Wow, that's a good question. That's a really, really good question. I don't know, Garrett, do you have an answer for that?
I don't. I mean, like, obviously huge Flames fan. But I mean, I don't know. Like, there's so many that they're currently doing it with.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know if there's just one dream project. It's more just, what point can we take this thing to? And what kind of, like, I actually really get a blast at finding. I still love the nostalgia stuff, like, so finding these old memorabilia kind of logos, and then going through the grind of getting those organized and out, I think are still tops and get me the most excited with this thing.
I guess
oh,
like,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
for me, I guess now that, like, we've talked about it a little bit, the two would be, for me, if we could do Calgary Cowboys, I just think it has so much possibility.
It's a great logo. Yeah.
It's just so awesome. Like, I mean, you could do like really clean golf shirts, or button ups, or there's so many options, and I think that would probably be the dream for me. Or, kind of like we were talking about earlier, maybe working to honor our own heart in some capacity. I think my dad was a really big wrestling fan and kind of got me into wrestling when I was a young guy. So I think that would be really cool for me.
Well, and no pun intended, it's such the heart of Calgary. I know one of the other ones I asked was like a Heart House shirt, but I don't really know how you would do that. Would you just have a shirt that says Heart House? And I'm sure you guys have been asked about like a Heart House shirt, but I don't really know how you would do that.
Yeah, I mean, we have kind of kicked around that idea before, and I mean, like, to be fair, like, Brett's such a busy guy, and I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really want, you don't want to bombard him with stuff. He's been such a great sport, like supporting our pink shirt, day shirt, with the corral imagery on it, and then of course helping us with the Stampede wrestling design, like being the first person ever to look at the mock-up. It would be really cool to produce like the Bret Hart shirt, because he like some of his branding is so cool, right? Like,
Mhm.
we had some early
We need the
with that, with,
glasses.
like,
They're so
Allison,
hard to get.
the glasses, if you could implement the glasses, or like the winged the winged skull in the heart, and all
Yeah.
that would be a ton of fun to do. Yeah, we had some very early conversations with Dallas and Blade about how that would look. But like, we're just so busy, man. Like, there's just so many like things on the go. It's tough.
The podcast so far seems great. You had TJ Wilson on here last week, and I give you guys compliments. It was a really good pod to get TJ on there, and everything he's already gone through in his life, but just how he always kind of stays in the map and represents Calgary. I thought it was a really, really cool listen. And you guys seem to be rolling out these fantastic weekly guests time after time. And I think it's kind of the next part of your brand too, right? You have this nostalgia base to put on you, but now you have this nostalgia base to kind of listen back to.
Yeah. So really quickly about the podcast, like, we were approached about the podcast probably about 6 months ago. And I just said, like, I kept putting it back. So Josh Humphreys, SAIT grad, also former Sportsnet 960 guy, he was the one who really approached us about the podcast. And I just kept saying, like, I don't know if the following is there yet. I don't know if it's there. And then I think I just got sick of him saying, like, this should be a podcast. So I said, okay, like, if it's as easy as you say it is, show me a mock podcast. So he took it upon himself, and he got Pat Steinberg, and they did our first ever mock, kind of what it would look like podcast. And we brought Scott on, who's like the most amazing storyteller I've ever been around. He's like the best writer and the best storyteller. So it was kind of a no-brainer. And he's got such a great Rolodex of contacts too. So we kind of like did all the hard work and the heavy lifting early on. So we've actually recorded podcasts until May.
Wow.
Yeah, so we'll release one a week. This week is Sean Chambers, former Calgary 88, and it's an amazing listen. Like, I really would recommend you listen to it. It's amazing stories. Like, he's still he runs a basketball academy in Northern California now, and he still is very connected into like high level basketball naturally, right? But speaks so highly of his time in Calgary and has some amazing stories about being part of the Calgary Stampede parade and what it was like to play in the Saddle Dome and go to Flames games as a member of the Calgary 88s and what that was like. So he's this week, but we got Mike Soroka coming up. We've got Eric Hanson, who is really timely right now with the popularity of the Queen's Gambit. He's like one of the best chess players in the world, and he's from Calgary. The podcast it's been a lot of fun, but like Garrett and I are pretty hands off from it, actually.
Sure. You got to get David Spence because he called the 88s games.
Yeah, he's mentioned that to us when we did the television segment. You're right. He would be another great one. There's so many great guys on there. That's the problem, right? It's similar to the logos. Like you got to get this guy, you got to get that guy, you got to get that gal on there. So,
So one of my last two questions here is expand. So I talked about kind of the same with the nostalgia stuff. Is kind of the expanding. Toronto likes to call themselves the 6. In some ways, Calgary kind of has the 4 or so, right? You have Cochrane, where I'm out right now. You have Airdrie. You have Okotoks. Old's a little bit more, but mainly though, I guess those 3 really with Okotoks, Cochrane, and Airdrie. Any idea of with those communities kind of just being a little offshoots of Calgary and maybe some defunct or nostalgia bases for what those cities have to build towards?
I mean, we'd be totally open to it. We do a lot of deliveries in Airdrie, Okotoks, and Chestermere. So
Chestermere's the other one, yeah.
And I mean, Garrett drives to. I mean, you've driven to High River, haven't you, Garrett?
I've gone out to High River, or down to High River. I'm pretty much a resident of Okotoks these days. Occasionally, it's certainly starting out, but yeah, and we have I think we've done some preliminary, medicine, including like a medicine hat and some of those other maybe not immediate outside of Calgary, but still within in the realm. And we've certainly done our initial investigations there into what we might be able to pick up.
Yeah, we fully recognize, we take a lot of pride and rep this city, right? That's our whole branding and whatnot. But we take a lot of pride in that counting towards Chestermere, Airdrie, Cochrane, Okotoks, like Garrett was talking about. So we're totally open to it. It's everything. Sorry, I keep giving the same answer, but it's kind of
it's cool.
Comes down to time, man.
Yeah.
Oh, my last question is, and whoever wants to go first can go first. What is your favorite, and this doesn't have to be with anything with the company now, but just as a Calgary, let's just go sports fan or citizen, but let's go for sports first. Sports and citizen, you can do both, you can just do one. Your favorite sports and citizen memory, nostalgia based as a citizen of Calgary.
Well, I guess just because of the age group I'm in, and it was right when I graduated high school, would be the 04 Cup run. I was too young to really remember the actual Stanley Cup win in '89, and then just seeing what a team going. You saw it kind of through the Stampeders, but just the how the city came together during that run, and it wasn't even mayhem. It was just the crowding and everything, but no destruction in the downtown core. It was just such a blast to be a part of. And that's something I'll remember for the rest of my life for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could give you a different answer. But for me, I'm an 86. I'm the same age as Garrett. So to be 18 to experience the Red Mile at that time, that was pretty cool. I did work for the Calgary Stampeders from 2012 to 2015. As a member of the communications team. So I was on the field when we won they won the Grey Cup in 2014. So that
a ring?
I got a ring. It's got my name.
Yeah, my cousin's one of the head of the Outriders. Why can I Kendra Vickers.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I know Scott too also, right?
So it's Scott. Well, Scott, we won't say what Scott does. We'll keep that for the kiddies, nostalgia base there. But Scott works there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know Kendra, I know Scott. So that was a really cool moment for me. I had so many memories as a kid also with the Stamps losing in endless West finals, it felt like. So
Yeah.
to actually be a part of that. And I remember telling some of the players that after the game, you know, when we were celebrating, I was kind of like, what this means to the city and people like myself that watch this team lose so much is really cool and really special. So
this city is such a passionate sports city, right? I think you saw it a few years ago when the NBA did come here with that Raptor game, how packed the Saddledome got. That obviously there's not going to be an NBA team here, but there's that fever for another sports team. And I mean, you're seeing it right now with the Flames, right? It's not to get too doom and gloom, but you can see the passion from the city right now of you're all kind of in this conversation together with, you know, good or bad towards everything and kind of raising above, hopefully when things will be good. And I think at the end of the day, that's one of the cool things that you guys have brought with your shirts is a chance to celebrate the city and your fandom for nostalgia-based brands that have gone away, but now you get to still celebrate going forward.
yeah, that's kind of the idea. That's really why we do this. Like, we kind of started by saying like, I want Canon stuff, and then that quickly morphed into like, well, the Cannons were a part of the makeup of this city and they're no longer here. Well, they're not the only ones. There's so many other really unique, cool things that, like, as a city, Garrett, myself, and Ryan just felt like we don't really celebrate or acknowledge nearly enough. So that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, just such an awesome, diverse, and eclectic city, you know, for so long that, as John said, you know, the Cannons was one part of it, and then it just sort of grew out to, you know, everything else that's made growing up. And, you know, we're born and raised Calgarians, so growing up and still being in this city, so awesome.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much. It was an absolute privilege to have you on the show. Maybe in the future we'll talk maybe a little bit, have more nostalgia base about some of the actual sporting events kind of going forward. But again, thank you so much. Obviously plug the Sea of Dead website, the Twitter, give that all away.
Yeah, so we're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're probably most active on Instagram or Twitter. Just search Sea of Dead, the letter C. And then we, you know, do all of our orders through seaofdead.ca. That's again the letter seaofdead.ca. And we got it all. Let us know what you need.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much. Until next time, folks, cheers. And enjoy the day, people.